Death toll in Turkey, Syria, earthquakes nears 12,000. Nigeria Air to begin flying soon, says federal government. I seek a nation founded on justice, prosperity for all, BAT. Relief, joy as Supreme Court halts CBN deadline on old Naira. Tinubu, El-Rufai, Wike, OPS, others hail injunction. The pro-people, the anti-people analysis. Fleeing Senator Nwoboshi arrested. UTME, JAM cancels registration of 817 candidates. What stories do we have in the nation?
Okay, I'll take the UTME. JAM, the JAM registrar, Professor Ishak Oloyede, announced yesterday that 817 candidates for this year's UTME exams have been cancelled, and 178 computer-based centers are affected by this cancellation. The registrar said that the reason for the cancellation is some infractions that has to do with strange biometric fingerprints during the registration process. So he said that the 817 students will be given another opportunity to re-register for the examination, but this CBT, that's the centers, will have to bear the cost. So what they noticed was that there's some people who during registration had other people use their fingerprints for them. Oh. So, and they're different, he said they realized there's a wide range of scenarios. So there are those that they said while they were there, they were told that, oh, the machine is too hot or your hand is too hot, let me do it for you. So the person at the center would use that. So they were naive. They didn't mean to be,
allow those people.
They didn't mean to do anything untoward, but, you know, that's what they allowed them. Then yes, that there's those who were there because they were trying to impersonate other people, but they cannot pinpoint exactly who those ones were. So the thing is to just cancel everything. Oh my God. He said they sat down with the CBT centers, the stakeholders, and they admitted that they were, you know, culpable, part of the deal. And so they are allowing all the students who've been cancelled to go back and register, but these centers will have to pay the board for this registration.
I must commend the team at JAM for going an extra mile to find out what led to what. In the olden days, cancel. You will not get your results, nothing. It's your parents that will bear the cost, but thankfully they're doing so much. So the major headline, Nigerians and everybody, especially Governor Wike and the IMF have, you know, applauded the Supreme Court for intervening in this our Naira swap and the deadline wahala. So the Supreme Court yesterday, the day before yesterday, granted an interim injunction restraining the central bank from enforcing the deadline starting tomorrow. And the IMF came and you know, faulted that deadline that, you know, this window is too short. That the window, that the 108 days window that the central bank decided to enforce this within is so short that it will affect other things. And the Apex Court also yesterday restrained the CBN governor from, you know, going further. The CBN governor then decided to visit the president. We've seen him regularly visiting the president now, and I hope that he's advising on the right policy going forward. Also, yesterday was his second in 2 days in visiting him. So we're waiting to see what will happen tomorrow. You know, of course, there's a court injunction that must be obeyed, but we're waiting to see going forward what the new rules will be.
Okay. So the presidential candidate for APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as well as El-Rufai, Wike, and other state governments are thanking the governors for, it's related to the story that Nima just took, celebrating the fact that the governors stood up because they said filing the case was a big deal, and the governor of Rivers State, Wike, is joining the suit filed by Kaduna, Kogi, Zamfara states at the Supreme Court. If we remember, Governor Nasir El-Rufai said the ruling would relieve the suffering of the people, and the presidential candidate was totally in support of it, saying that this is what the people want. He said the governors pulled us back from the precipice, that Nigeria was deteriorating. He wants to salute the courage of the governors. We were teetering on a dangerous political crisis and social unrest, which the CBN's policy on the new Naira note has brought on our country. So I think that a lot of Nigerians share the relief that is being expressed by the presidential candidate of APC on the news from the Supreme Court.
Okay, so I hope we'll have enough time to settle in and see how the cash begins to flow. Yeah, so the aviation minister, Hadi Sirika, yesterday said Nigeria Air will soon begin their flight operations. He said they have completed the initial processes and they were at the point of sealing and obtaining the Air Operator Certificate, AOC, to enable the carrier to start flying. So he was addressing the State House correspondent after the FEC meeting with the president at the Villa yesterday. And he said, we've got the aircrafts ready. They've painted it in our national color. They've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. It's supposed to be about 5 stages. They have moved from 1 stage to the 5th stage. They are currently rounding up and expecting the certificate, which will be released to them soon. And once it's done, they'll start flying. So that's good news on that part. Also, they said that's according to the Minister for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timi Presilva. He said that the council has approved the money for the construction of the Oloibiri Oil Museum and Research Center in Bayelsa. This has been ongoing since the 1980s, and it's one of the legacies that our president wants to leave before he leaves office. So congratulations to them on that. Let's move on to the Punch. 195 naira per litre impossible, marketers insist. 900 NMPCL stations to serve INEC during polls, Yakubu. I didn't offer to buy kidney, Ikweremadu tells court. Wike lacks popular support to help Tinubu, Peterside. World Bank, IMF won CBN, Supreme Court stops Friday deadline. We've taken that. INEC appeals Oshun poll judgment, defends Adeleke's victory. 805 million fraud, fleeing Senator Nwoboshi nabbed and sent to prison. Turkey, Syria earthquake deaths now over 11,200. What stories do we have in the Punch?
The senator representing Delta North in the National Assembly, Peter Nwoboshi, was convicted since July 1st, 2022 and sentenced to 7 years imprisonment for money laundering. Came to about 805 million naira. And they said that since that time, he's been on the run. He did not bring, first he wasn't even in court, and since his conviction, he has not gone to the correctional facility. And so, but what he did, the EFCC said that what he did was go to the Supreme Court to ask for a judgment to set aside, the previous judgment that had sentenced him to prison. But the Supreme Court is saying, see, nobody's above the law. First of all, you ignored what the law said, and now you are coming back to the same place to ask for us to, waive it. So he has now been formally remanded at the correctional facility.
Okay, so the 900 INEC story, 900 NNPC stations to serve INEC during polls. So according to the Ogakpatapata of INEC, the chairman of the INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, yesterday, he mentioned that 2 issues that is affecting Nigerians is also affecting INEC, which is the scarcity of fuel at this time and scarcity of naira. He says that so these 2 challenges have been, there is looking for ways to solve them. Of course, so they met with NNPC, who have committed their 900 stations on land as well as the floating mega stations to help during this time, because they always enlist the help of NURTW operators, that's the National Road Transport Union of Road Transport Workers, with moving of their materials, and those ones were talking about the issue of fuel on ground. And so they've gone to meet with NNPC, and NNPC will be serving their own vehicles during the election, and we have just 16 days to the election. Also, the issue of cash, the CBN they've met with the Oga of the CBN, and they've discussed how cash will be given to their staff and members who need it for their operations during the election. So these 2 issues, which of course would have affected the elections or made it an issue to be postponed, has been dealt with by INEC, according to the reports in the Punch. So let's just hope that it's as they said it, ICL.
We're still reviewing the Punch. I have a story. All marketers on Wednesday, that was yesterday, said the supply of premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol, has not yet stabilized. And that's why we still have a lot of queues around different filling stations, except in Abuja, where it has reduced. And one of the reasons it's reduced is because the president had given them a marching order that they must supply at least that capital city. So it doesn't look like everything is just going the other way. So the Group Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, said that the fuel queues would likely clear in 1 week. The marketers are also expressing optimism about that. However, it will be very difficult to insist that they sell at the government approved price, which is 195 liters, because most of them had bought the products higher and they will not want to sell at a loss. And that's where the issue is. But, they've been having meetings upon meetings to see how this works out. So let's give them about a week and see how they can, resolve the issues. That's basically the story.
So the former Deputy Senate President, Ike Ekweremadu, has denied that he offered money to buy a kidney for his daughter. His daughter, we recollect, is 25-year-old who's trying to undergo a kidney transplant. And they offered to pay, the allegation is that they offered to pay £7,000 to a 21-year-old trader who they flew to London falsely as the cousin, and they wanted to get his kidney. So he said that he thought that the trader was doing this with altruistic motive, that in the Nigerian society, there's an expression, everyone is each other's keeper, and that they felt it was an altruistic donation of organ. But that's not but
it's true.
But people do it here. So he also said that the donor had offered to donate the kidney, and that it wasn't that he was buying the kidney. They did not pay. They were not planning to pay for the kidney, and the treatment was to save the life of his daughter. I just, this entire thing is really getting more and more complicated. It doesn't look like there will be an easy way out of this. And I feel sorry for all of them involved. The daughter is caught up in between this. I pray she doesn't lose her life while they're trying to resolve the case. And of course, it will help us as a country to look into this case of altruistic buying of organs and all of that. What we claim to be altruistic and the place of buying of organs, which happens here. We cannot deny that it happens here.
The way we were wired here, you hardly, for this kind of things, expect monetary exchange. So you'd have taken it for granted, but people have already passed that stage now. They monetize these things. So maybe the young man was doing it and giving them the impression he was altruistic, but he was monetizing or hoping for some
because of who they were.
Reward. So this mix-up is possible here. Let's not even talk about it like that. It's possible here. The only problem is next time have it in a document. Let him be the one. Let's have
written out and signed. Let's move on now to the Vanguard. Federal government blames profiteers for petrol price hike. PDP, APC clash over plots to scuttle polls. We found solutions to petrol cash and cash scarcity, INEC. Protest trail Supreme Court order. Federal government seeks dismissal of ruling. Naira swap. Wike hails Supreme Court Rivers to join suit. Article 6 removal of Lagos REC over alleged partisanship. IMF pushes for fiscal monetary policy reforms in Nigeria. What stories do we have in the Vanguard?
So Tope had taken that Wike story, but she not put the drama that I wanted.
Give us the drama.
So let me just go.
Thursday, we need drama.
So he said, let me commend my brother states like Kogi, Kaduna, and Zamfara, who took it upon themselves to challenge the federal government at the Supreme Court. I also want to say that the Rivers State government will join them in that suit to challenge what the CBN is doing. We will not support anything that will go against the masses. Anything that makes the masses suffer, we will not allow it. So I wanted that kind of drama.
All I can say is, Governor Wike, you have fans here. It would be lovely to have you sit with us.
Honestly, and have a conversation.
Why is the governor of Rivers State?
Even when after whatever. I have a story from the IMF. Has said that the Nigeria's economic recovery should be anchored on decisive fiscal policy reforms and further monetary policy tightening. The statement followed the conclusion of its assessment of the 2022 Article 4 staff report. And details of the assessment is that IMF says, looking ahead, directors recommended decisive fiscal and monetary tightening to secure macroeconomic stability, combined with structural reforms to improve governance, strengthen the agricultural sector, and boost inclusive, sustainable growth. Also highlighted the need for bold fiscal reforms to create needed policy space. They also emphasized that government should not go back on its decision to take away subsidy by June. And, there's so many more things that they listed here, giving the assessment. And I mean, this is all what we've been saying. We just want, as we can see, the CBN, our economic sector, it seems like there's so many confusing policies. We're not sure what is best for our people. We don't know. Before we make policies, we don't include everyone. And when we roll it out, we have all sorts of issues. So IMF is advising us on the best way to, go forward.
Yeah, so the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, said yesterday that they have found solutions to some of the perceived obstacles capable of derailing the general elections expected to start with the presidential polls February 25th. And they have also are trying to assure Nigerians that, as agreed, the general elections must hold as planned and nothing would derail it this time around. So they are having conversations with different bodies that are responsible. So the two major issues that they found is the fact that there is lack of cash in the system. And to solve that issue, they said they have negotiated with the CBN governor. They've had meetings with him, and he has promised that because the accounts of the INEC is being managed by the Apex Bank, so he has promised that they are going to have all that they require to make the elections work. Also, they had another meeting with the transport workers as well, who have ensured that and promised that everything will work out so that they won't have issues of moving their materials from one place to the other. So for them, INEC has sorted the issue of cash and petrol, and hopefully we'll have our election as planned.
So the PDP and APC are clashing over moves to scuttle votes. APC, the PDP putting out allegations against APC that APC wants to postpone the presidential election by 2 weeks to 1 month, using their influence within the House. And reacting to this, the APC replied that we're not afraid, and they denied scheming any plan to postpone the election. The APC is saying that we are ready for the elections. Through their spokesperson, Felix Moka, said that this is blatantly false, reckless, and bears no iota of credibility. He also mentioned that on the record, the party continues to with the support of the president, that APC has been waging a vibrant campaign, so they have nothing to fear towards the election. Back and forth.
Okay, let's move on to the Nigerian Tribune. We have resolved petrol scarcity, cash crunch issues, INEC. Nigerians must ensure general election holds, OBJ. Federal government blames profiteer for hike in petrol price. 400 of our teachers killed by insurgents, Borno government. 71% of schools in Borno, Adamawa, Yobe don't have qualified teachers, UNICEF. IMF asks for extension as Supreme Court holds February 10 deadline. MC Oluomo, remove Lagos REC now, Atiku tells INEC. Ajero takes over from Waba, gives federal government 1 week to resolve Naira scarcity. Kogi governor's nephew arraigned for alleged 3 billion fraud. INEC appeals tribunal judgment, sacking Adeleke as Osun governor. Lists 44 grounds why verdicts should be set aside. What stories do we have in the Nigerian Tribune?
I have the national leadership of African Democratic Congress visited our former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, on Wednesday. And in the meeting, the former president was just, reiterating the importance of the general elections that's coming, and saying that we must all work together to make sure that this election holds. And he also referred to how he's been traveling to different countries in West Africa, and that even some decisions, like he went to Cote d'Ivoire, he said the president, when he was leaving, says that there are some decisions they need to even make as a country, but they have to put it on hold until the general elections happens in Nigeria, so that it's not just a Nigerian thing. We also affect what goes on politically in our country, affects the whole of West Africa. And just saying it's very important, and we should all be part of it to make sure it's successful.
Let me quickly give details of the story of INEC and MC Oluomo. So apparently the Atiku campaign organization is accusing Lagos State INEC of REC, that he should be removed because he plans to use the Lagos State Park management under the management of Musiliu Akisoya, also known as MC Oluomo. His accusation is that everybody knows, according to him, that MC Oluomo is affiliated with APC, and using his team to transport sensitive material will be compromising the sensitive materials. INEC, on the other hand, said that the only reason they are using the Lagos State Park Management Garage Committee is because Lagos State has banned nurtw within the state, and those are the only people that he can use to move sensitive materials from the INEC office to the location. So we'll see how they would resolve that.
All right. Thank you, ladies. That's all we can take on the newspaper reviews.